Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1345B, and today's date is July 31st, 2017, and the title of the episode is, Why is there so much chaos? It's to keep the bad guys from figuring it all out. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, we can see that Obamacare, well, this is a major problem for Trump, and he's out there, and he took to Twitter on Monday to ask why insurance companies in Congress are not being hurt by the failing of Obamacare just as the American people are being hit. And this is absolutely correct, and we've been talking about this for a very long time. He also threatens to end what he called bailouts for the insurance companies. Now, we all understand what this was all about. This entire healthcare system, the new bill that they're trying to pass, the old Obamacare bill, this is all written by insurance companies. This is not written by our government officials to make it easier and better for the people. This is written in a way where it benefits the insurance companies. It puts a lot of cash into the government officials who are pushing this, and this whole entire system is one gigantic fraud. And if you notice that these individuals, they exempted themselves from this health insurance. Now, he is out there telling everyone that this is what has happened. These individuals should be forced to take Obamacare. Now, he could do this with two executive orders. The first executive order he should issue immediately, forcing every member of Congress to use the same health care plan as the rest of us. Let Senator McCain come off his high horse and live under the rules of Obamacare. Make every member of Congress live by the same rules as the rest of us, because right now they're not. Right now, they're living on a different set of rules. They have their own health insurance. The executive order that he also could write is demanding the disclosure of all financial interest of and ownership in healthcare-related companies or stock by every member of Congress. Who is invested in the health companies? Because these are the individuals that are benefiting from all of this. Will this happen? We don't know. But he's already out there calling them out, saying, listen, they should experience the same thing that the people are experiencing. And believe me, if this was done, the argument would be completely different in Congress. The entire outlook would be completely different. But when you have something completely different and you're arguing over something, how do you argue it if you're not in it? You can't. And this is the problem we have today. The problem is our government officials, or our government employees, they're not working for us. They're working for many others. Now, we can see that there is a huge amount of chaos in the Trump administration. And the corporate media is out there and they're saying, oh, look at this. There's complete chaos in the Trump administration. He doesn't know what he's doing. This is a complete and utter disaster. No, this is being done on purpose. This is being done to keep the deep state, the elite, the bad guys, completely confused. Think about what he's doing right now. He's been cleaning house. Either people are resigning or people are getting fired. And there's been many of these individuals. Think about the list. Sally Yates, the acting attorney general and the appointee of former President Barack Obama. Michael Flynn resigned in February. Katie Walsh, the former deputy chief of staff and close ally to Priebus, left the White House. Preet Bharara, he also left. James Comey was fired. Walter Schaub, the former director of the Office of Government Ethics. Mark Corallo, the spokesman for President Donald Trump's legal team. Sean Spicer, Michael Short, and Priebus, and now Scaramucci. Now, he resigned, but I don't think he was placed in there to do anything except get rid of Priebus and basically go after everyone else and bring in a new chief of staff. I think that was his role in this. Again, he's resigned, but again, he's not let go yet. He might be given a different position, or he might just say, okay, see you later. And I think all of this is being done right now to keep the chaos continuing. They want chaos to keep everyone busy. When I say everyone, I'm talking about the corporate media, the deep state, the elite, the neocons. Keep them completely busy in what is going on right now. While in the background, he's cleaning house. Slowly but surely, and it's going to take some time, but he is doing it. And guess what? The deep state, the corporate media, they really can't do anything about it. Now, it looks like there is more and more evidence coming out against the Obama administration. Intelligence Chairman Devin Nunes, well, he wrote a letter to the Director of National Intelligence explaining that hundreds of unmasking requests were made by Obama aides. And he went on to say that they found evidence that current and former government officials, well, they had easy access to U.S. person information, and that it is possible that they used this information for many different things. And we can see it's in the hundreds now, and there is a lot of documentation that they're looking at. And we can see right now that the walls are closing in around the Obama administration, and we're finding out they haven't been on the up and up, and they've been doing things that are illegal. And this is why there's a special counsel now looking into Loretta Lynch, looking into the Clinton emails, looking into Comey, because we're starting to see that all this information is starting to come out, and we need to go through it, collate it, and understand what they have been doing. Because during this whole entire period, it was very easy to cover all this up while they were in office, and they were hoping that Clinton was going to get in there to keep this all under wraps. Now that Trump is there, and this is one of the reasons why they hate him, is because they're looking through all of this. He has access to everything. And this is what they're really afraid of. This is why they've been pushing so hard. Plus all the other things where he's not following through on their agenda. Now we see Pence is out there, and again, Pence, it looks like, I don't know if he's really part of the team, because he is out there and he's still out there saying that Russia is a huge threat. He's out there in the Baltic states, and he's saying that because of Russian aggression, we pledge more support for NATO allies like Estonia, Latvia, and others. And we see right now that he's pushing this angle. Now, remember, Trump, he has this bill which the Senate passed about Russian sanctions. And we know that it's pretty much veto-proof. But he can do some things, and I think he's going to let it sit there for 30 days or so, because I think that's how much time he actually has. And he might attempt to do something where he can maybe water this down somehow, some way. I mean, if we look back in time, Obama and George W. Bush, well, they routinely used signing statements when presented with pieces of congressional legislation which had provisions that they opposed if they were not prepared to veto the entire bill. Well, this is where he cannot veto the bill because it looks like it's veto-proof. Now, this is not to suggest that Trump can simply negate sanctions on his own authority, but he can easily spell out in such a document how he understands the legislation and how he plans to carry out its provisions. He can do that. And he also can look at it using his executive authority. I mean, Obama directed the federal law enforcement to stop pursuing certain categories of people who were residing in the United States illegally, and Trump then can use the same argument, and he can decide how vigorously and strictly he wants to enforce sanctions on Russia. So he does have the ability to do other things. What we're watching is what he actually does. Now, of course, when he starts to do this, the corporate media, the deep state, they're going to attack him. And he understands this, that it's going to be all over the place. So we're going to have to watch and see how this plays out. We see the European Parliament, well, they refuse to recognize the results of the Venezuelan Constituent Assembly election. This is where Maduro is looking to change the constitution, and the EU Parliament is out there saying that we're not recognizing this election at all. We also see that the United States, because things are getting out of hand for them, where he's getting prepared and ready to change the constitution, which will allow him to have more power, well, the Treasury Office of Foreign Assets, they've personally sanctioned Maduro right now, adding him to the list of specially designated nationals, freezing any U.S. assets, and putting a lot of pressure on him. Remember, the deep state, their main mission is empire building, to go into every single one of these countries and replace that leader with someone they can control, so they can have control over all these areas. It's almost like Rome, where they invaded all these different countries. They set up a garrison in there, a puppet government in there, and they control the entire area. They're using the same framework, but today. Now, Trump is out there and he's saying, don't worry, we're going to handle North Korea. It will be handled. We'll handle everything. And what does that actually mean? It actually means nothing. Because as we can see up to this point, really, he hasn't done anything. And I think he's not going to do anything. Now, the deep state does not like this. First of all, Russia was out there. They already said this is not a intercontinental ballistic missile. It was an intermediate range missile that was fired. And of course, the deep state who is out there and the corporate media, they just keep on repeating the same propaganda over and over and over because they want the people to believe. They want the world to believe. And right now, Russia, they're out there and they are rejecting the U.S. criticism over North Korea that they're not doing anything, that China's not doing anything. They're saying, listen, we're coming up with a framework. We developed a joint roadmap that excludes the use of threat and force and involves a comprehensive solution to all the problems of the Korean Peninsula. And we see from Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Rybakov, he's out there saying, listen, we've seen their technology. We've been monitoring their missile systems. We understand that they have basic nuclear weapons. And he is saying that they are years and years away from a moment they can weaponize these missiles. They're just not there yet. These devices are very primitive. And they are. I mean, think about the number of missiles they fired and how many missiles exploded or failed. Just recently, they were able to get a missile to launch and actually fly somewhere. And the corporate media, the deep state, wants us to believe they have the technology to hit Alaska and Chicago, which is turning out to be fake, phony, and false. But Nikki Haley, who's part of the deep state because she talks in absolutes, she's saying there's no time for talk anymore. There's no point in a UN Security Council emergency session. It doesn't work. We don't care. The time for talk is over. We need to attack. Now, this is a deep state type of speak, deep state speak. Because they don't want to do any of this anymore. They want war. They want to go in. They're part of the empire builders. She is part of the empire builder. And we can see already that the deep state, they're pushing this forward. How do we know this? Well, coming out of South Korea, and this is coming out of the Munhwa newspaper, this cites an unidentified government official, an anonymous source, of course. This is how the deep state works. They never give any real information because we know it's propaganda. They're saying that South Korea's military is preparing a surgical strike and they're going to plan it all out. They're going to prepare and get ready, and they might do this before August 1st or right on August 1st. And Moon Jae-in, well, he is going to receive the plans and he's going to make the decision of what he's going to do. Now, once again, Moon Jae-in, he's been looking for a way to talk to North Korea. And he did propose some type of talk between the two militaries. Talks about, joining together for the Olympics. And North Korea right now, they're saying, listen, we are willing to hold ministerial talks with South Korea if the South allows and supports a peace treaty between North Korea and Washington. So if the South supports a peace treaty between North Korea and Washington and allows the two groups to come together, they will talk with South Korea. They really don't want Washington involved in this. They want the drills stopped, and they want to talk to South Korea. There was a point in time before Obama where the North and the South, they were coming closer and closer together. They were joining and basically working together economically. And I believe they want this to happen once again. But it looks like the Obama administration, the deep state, they don't want this to happen. This is why they're continually pushing and they're not letting up. Now, once again, Russia and China, they're going to be putting forth their plan. This has nothing to do with invasion, has nothing to do with troop buildup. This has to do with working with all sides. They've done it before. They've done it in Syria. They're working now in Afghanistan. And they want to make it work here in North Korea. Of course, the deep state, they don't want this to work. And we're going to have to watch how this plays out, because their next move, the deep state's next move, is some type of false flag to get something started. And this is something that we need to look at. Now, out in Syria, we can see that the deep state, they're trying everything they possibly can to rekindle what they had in Syria. Right now, the Washington Post, they are saying that Al-Qaeda in Syria, well, they're just coming out of nowhere and they're building their forces. Well, they're trying to use this to make everyone believe that Al-Qaeda is on the rise. But what is really happening here is they are losing ground in Syria, and they're really losing the fight. And pretty soon there's going to be no reason for the United States to be in Syria. The window is now closing in this area, and the United States realizes this, and as the window closes, Russia eventually, and Syria, they're going to say, and they're going to go to the UN, and they're going to say, there is no reason for this coalition force that was never invited into the country to remain here. We have everything under control. And once this happens, once they make this announcement, well, guess what? Everything starts to fall apart. We're already seeing it. It's already starting to break down. And as that breaks down, that affects what? The economy. How? Well, there's no reason to use the dollar on the natural resources. There'll be no pipeline going through Syria into Europe. The entire plan, the billions, or I should say trillions of dollars that they spent on empire building was just thrown out of the window. And the destruction and the killing that they have done over all this time, since 2000, well, actually further back than that, all this time has not achieved their goal. And these individuals, they're funding the wealthy Congress people. Well, their time is coming to an end. This is why McCain is out there saying, listen, if Trump doesn't come up with a plan in Afghanistan, he's going to come up with a plan. This is how worried they are, because everything that they built over time is coming to an end. And if their funding stops, guess what? They're done. They can't manipulate elections. They're not going to receive the funding from all these lobbyists, from foreign entities, from the central bank. Everything comes to a screeching halt. This is what they're afraid of. And the walls are closing in on them. And as Trump keeps this chaos up, they have no idea what's going on. He's really calling the shots right now, because he really understands, and he understands that we're heading towards this collapse. Now, I'm not saying he's going to save the country. He's there for a reason. He's there to bring us through this collapse, the destruction of an old system and a birth of the new system. And when we come out of the other side, it doesn't mean the country is going to be the way it was, where our way of life is going to be the same, because the world is going to change. It's changing right in front of us. what he's going to do, he's going to restructure the country so we can join the new world. And I think our way of life, the value of the dollar, the reserve currency of the world, that's going to completely change. And everyone's going to be there for a rude awakening. Now think about it. When we came onto the system, the petrodollar system, actually go back to World War II, when we had the Bretton Woods system, where we took all the other countries' gold to keep it safe, and we set up this system, and gold was, used to back the system. We had that from 45 all the way up to, or 47 all the way up to 71. And then all of a sudden, the central bankers, the government employees, decided to print money that didn't really match up with the gold holdings, and countries started to come in and say, something, we want our gold back. And this is when Nixon closed the gold window. And what happened when we came on to the new petrodollar system? Well, our way of life changed. What did we see happen? Interest rates skyrocketed. We saw inflation like we've never seen before. Houses doubled. Wages doubled. Yes, people still couldn't find jobs. They were trying to basically bring the system and rein it in. That happened in the 80s and 90s. That's why we saw that huge amount of growth. Now we're at the back end, where we have all this debt. Wages are declining. We have no production. Interest rates are at zero or close to zero. And according to the Fed, because they've been shoving it off into different countries, into the stock market, into the housing market, they've been trying to keep inflation basically at a steady rate. Now, this system's coming to an end. We're going to go through a transition. We went through a transition to come onto the petrodollar. And at the beginning of the system, it was a good thing. It changed the way people lived. This is also going to change the way people are living. The problem is that it's going to change in a different way. Our lives are not going to improve in the way it did when we came on to their petrodollar system. And that system was only designed to last 40 to 45 years. Now, because of what they've done, because what they did in the past, where they basically closed the gold window, they cheated these countries out of their gold, they've been manipulating the entire system. We're at a point now where the world is now moving away from the dollar to something different. And that means we'll no longer be the reserve currency, which means our way of life and everything that we've known is about to change, just like it changed when we were coming on to the petrodollar system. This is why everyone needs to be ready and prepared for what is coming and understand what is coming. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.